I have been teaching combat tactics at the Archival Military Academy for 12 years. In that time, I have graded approximately 4,000 examination papers. I have read every variation of acceptable tactical theory. I have seen clever answers, mediocre answers, and answers so incomprehensible I questioned the candidate's basic literacy. What I have never seen, until this particular afternoon, is an answer that made me physically collapse. My name is Veltris. I am a Cyrillian protocol analyst, which means my entire evolutionary biology is designed for pattern recognition, systematic evaluation, and maintaining composure under information stress. My three aqua eyes process visual input in layered priority streams. My throat membranes allow precise tonal communication. My fractal skin patterns expand and contract to regulate cognitive temperature during complex analysis. I am, by every measurable standard, an ideal examination proctor. I was seated at my evaluation platform at the front of the grand examination hall, surrounded by the comforting aesthetic of academic tradition. The walls around me rose in rich burgundy panels trimmed with ornate gold molding. Tall arched windows along the eastern side revealed a dusky lavender sky, the kind of peaceful twilight that should accompany quiet intellectual work. Elegant brass chandeliers hung from the vaulted ceiling, casting warm amber light across rows of polished mahogany desks where candidates completed their assessments. The deep mahogany floors gleamed beneath a burgundy carpet runner that led from the entrance to my platform. Everything about this environment communicated sophistication, tradition, and proper military discipline. I had been grading theoretical combat solutions examinations for the past hour. The assignment was straightforward, used in military academies across 18 different systems. Present the candidate with a scenario. Hostile target, secured in a fortified facility. Neutralization required. Multiple approach vectors possible. Ask them to demonstrate tactical thinking by listing 3 different lethal methods with brief explanations. Evaluate their creativity, practicality, and strategic reasoning. Most candidates interpreted 3 methods, quite literally. I had reviewed 22 papers so far. Each contained exactly 3 approaches, sometimes 4 if the candidate felt particularly ambitious. The answers followed predictable patterns: sniper positioning from elevated advantage, infiltration through ventilation systems, explosive breach of primary entrance, all acceptable, all properly reasoned, all monumentally boring. I took a sip from my crystal water carafe, the brass base clinking softly against my mahogany desk. Across the hall, candidates worked in focused silence. I could see a tall reptilian student 3 rows back, his scaled hand moving steadily across his paper. 2 rows to the left, an amphibian candidate paused to consider her answer, webbed fingers drumming thoughtfully against the desk surface. Normal examination atmosphere. Productive academic tension. I appreciated the orderliness. Then I picked up the next paper in my grading stack. The candidate's name was printed neatly at the top: Esther. Human, mid-tier tactical strategy program, unremarkable academic record. I had barely noticed her during lectures, which itself was notable because humans usually drew attention simply by being unusual. But this one had been quiet, attentive, took notes in a small paper journal, never asked disruptive questions, average in every measurable way. I glanced across the hall and located her. She sat near the back right section, wearing a simple frock with a practical jacket over it, brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. She had finished her examination already and sat with her hands folded on her desk, a serene expression on her face, occasionally gazing out the arched windows at the lavender sky. She looked peaceful, content, like someone who had completed a satisfactory afternoon's work. I looked back down at her paper. Then I noticed something odd. The paper was thick, not a single sheet, multiple pages held together with a small brass clip. My fractal patterns pulsed once with mild confusion. Had she written an essay instead of a list? That would be incorrect format, grounds for point reduction. I removed the brass clip and spread the pages across my desk. My top eye focused on the first page, while my lower two eyes scanned ahead to gauge the document's length. What I saw made my throat membranes vibrate with a single confused tone. She had numbered her answers. I could see them clearly, written in neat, precise handwriting down the left margin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The numbers continued onto the second page, 7, 8, 9, the third page, the fourth page. My lower left eye tracked to the final page and found the last number, 30. The human had written 30 different lethal methods. I sat very still for a moment, my fractal patterns contracting into tight geometric shapes as my cognitive processes tried to reconcile what I was seeing. The assignment asked for 3. Every other candidate provided 3, perhaps 4. This human had provided 30. That was 1,000% more content than requested. I heard footsteps approaching my platform. Kaelor, the apex quantifier, assigned as my examination proctor assistant, climbed the 3 wooden steps to my station. He stood just under 5 feet tall, his balanced athletic frame moving with characteristic precision, his 2 brilliant amber eyes with their rotating inner rings fixed on me with analytical curiosity. The faint golden numerical tattoos across his forearms and temples pulsed in gentle sequential patterns, his baseline cognitive state. "Instructor Veltris," he said in his measured voice, "I am prepared to collect the completed evaluations for official recording." I did not respond immediately. I was still staring at Esther's paper. Kaelor's angular skull tilted slightly, his reinforced cheek plates catching the amber chandelier light. His inner eye rings rotated faster, processing my unusual silence. "Is there a difficulty?" he asked. I rotated the papers so he could see them. His amber eyes tracked across the pages, his inner rings spun faster. The numerical tattoos on his temples began pulsing irregularly. He reached out with one elongated, graceful finger and touched the number 30 at the bottom of the last page, as if confirming it was real. "This is statistically improbable," he said quietly. His tattoos flickered through several calculation sequences. The prompt explicitly stated 3 methods: clear instruction, unambiguous parameter. Response deviation of this magnitude suggests either comprehensive instruction failure or... He paused, his eye rings rotating rapidly. Or, the candidate deliberately chose to provide exponentially excessive content. "She wrote 30 methods for killing someone," I said, hearing my throat membranes produce an unsteady harmonic. 30 confirmed methods, Kaelor corrected, because he was constitutionally incapable of imprecise language. "We have not yet verified their tactical validity." He was right, of course. Professional duty required me to actually read the answers before making judgments. Perhaps they were nonsense. Perhaps the human had simply written 30 variations of the same approach, demonstrating enthusiasm but not actual creativity. Perhaps this would be a simple matter of marking her down for failure to follow instructions despite the obvious effort. I looked across the hall again. Esther had shifted position slightly in her chair. She was now examining her fingernails with mild interest. Still peaceful, still serene, like someone without a care in the universe. I returned my attention to the papers and began reading. Method 1. Sniper positioning from elevated structure adjacent to facility. Penetration shot through reinforced window during scheduled ventilation cycle when target typically moves near western exposure. I nodded slightly. Standard approach. Perfectly acceptable answer. Bit crude in its directness but functionally sound. My fractal patterns relaxed somewhat. Method 2. Infiltrate facility by impersonating scheduled maintenance worker. Introduce slow-acting poison into target's personal water supply. Exit facility before symptoms manifest. Ensure delayed reaction. Prevents immediate investigation. My throat membranes vibrated once, more creative than the first answer. Showed understanding of social engineering and biochemical timing. Darker in its methodology, but still within parameters of what I expected from tactical examinations. My lower eyes noticed Carlo's eye rings spinning slightly faster. Method 3. Sabotage facilities' environmental controls to create structural pressure differential. Wait for target to enter, sealed conference room for scheduled meeting. Explosive decompression causes rapid atmospheric evacuation, resulting in fatal trauma. Appears as mechanical malfunction rather than deliberate action. My fractal patterns contracted sharply. I felt my top eye blink independently of the lower two. That was disturbing, not because it was invalid, but because it was disturbingly practical. The human had clearly thought through the physics involved. She had considered investigation protocols and misdirection. This was not a theoretical exercise for her. This was problem-solving. I glanced at Kalor. His numerical tattoos were now flashing between different calculation sequences. Method 3 shows sophisticated understanding of atmospheric mechanics and investigative psychology, he said softly. Success probability approximately 87%. 87%. On a theoretical assassination, written by a mid-tier student who usually scored 70s on conventional examinations. I told myself to stop. I had read 3 answers. That was what the assignment required. I could grade based on these 3, mark her down for excessive content, and move on to the next paper. But there were 27 more methods written below. Professional thoroughness demanded I review the complete submission. How could I evaluate her work without reading all of it? Also, I will admit, I was morbidly curious. If these were her first 3 answers, what had she written for the remaining 27? I heard myself say, I am going to read the 4th method. Kalor leaned closer over my shoulder, his elongated fingers resting on the edge of my desk, his amber eyes focused on the paper. His tattoos displayed a probability calculation I did not ask for and did not want to see. I read method 4. My 3 aqua eyes widened simultaneously, pupils contracting to pinpoints. My fractal patterns exploded outward across my ice blue skin in jagged chaotic geometries. A physiological response I had not experienced since my first year of combat training when an instructor detonated a surprise flash charge. My throat membranes began vibrating in an ascending distress frequency, producing a high whistling tone I could not control. My top eye closed completely, my biological mechanism for rejecting corrupted visual input. The method was horrifying, not because it was violent. I taught combat tactics. Violence was inherent to the curriculum. It was horrifying because it was so creative, so perfectly practical, so casually elegant in its efficiency. She had written it like instructions for assembling furniture. Step 1, Step 2, Step 3. Estimated completion time. Resource requirements minimal. Detection probability nearly 0. Success rate above 90%. And it involved everyday objects found in literally any facility across known space. I tried to speak. My throat membranes produced only that ascending whistle. I felt my vision darkening at the edges. My fractal patterns were spasming across my skin in patterns I had never seen before. Somewhere in my fading consciousness, I heard Kalor make a strangled sound. His hand caught my shoulder as I slumped forward. I felt his other hand brace against the desk. Through my blurring vision, I saw his amber eyes locked on method 4, his inner rings frozen completely still. His numerical tattoos stopped mid-sequence, incomplete calculations glowing weakly across his slate blue skin. His face showed visible strain, jaw clenched, every muscle rigid. "This violates," he whispered, his voice breaking, 18 different accepted combat protocols. His body went rigid. Then he collapsed sideways into the burgundy leather chair beside my station. I heard footsteps, rapid clicking. The medical responder, an insectoid specialist who monitored all examinations, rushed up the platform steps. I felt multiple limbs supporting me, guiding me down the steps. Somewhere behind me, I heard the security observer at the hall entrance calling for additional assistance. Other candidates had looked up from their papers, confused by the disruption. Across the hall, Esther glanced over at the commotion. She looked mildly concerned, the way anyone might when an instructor suddenly collapses. Then she returned her attention to examining her fingernails. The medical responder guided me out of the examination hall, down the wide corridor with its plush burgundy carpet runner and warm honey-colored stone walls. Bronze wall sconces cast gentle amber light. Everything peaceful, everything normal. I was being escorted to the medical recovery suite because I had fainted while reading a student's homework. The suite was quiet, warm, golden hour light filtering through frosted windows, warm beige walls, comfortable padded couch in deep brown leather. The medical responder helped me sit, offered water, asked questions I barely heard. My fractal patterns were still shuddering across my skin in erratic waves. I regained full consciousness slowly. Sat up. Remembered. My throat membranes produced a low, mournful tone. Across the suite, Kaylor sat in another chair, staring blankly at the wall. His amber eyes were unfocused. His numerical tattoos remained frozen, incomplete sequences still glowing weakly. The medical responder asked if I needed more time. I looked at the examination papers sitting on the small bronze side table where someone had placed them, Esther's papers, with 26 more answers I had not read yet. "No," I heard myself say quietly. "There are 26 more methods. I have to finish." Kaylor's head turned slowly toward me. His eye rings began rotating again, painfully slow, like machinery resuming after catastrophic failure. He spoke in a hollow voice I had never heard from him before. "I have calculated the probability," he said. "If method 4 produced this severe a response, and there are 26 additional methods remaining, statistically speaking, we may not survive reading all of them." I looked at him, looked at the papers, looked at my hands, which were trembling slightly, making my fractal patterns shimmer. 12 years teaching combat tactics. 12 years of proper protocol and systematic evaluation. My professional pride would not allow me to leave this incomplete. "Then we document our descent into madness properly," I said. I picked up the papers. Kaylor stood slowly, his balanced frame steadier now but still uncertain. We walked together back through the warm corridor, past the bronze sconces and tall windows, showing the academy grounds in twilight. We did not return to the examination hall. Instead, I led us to my private assessment office. It was a small, intimate room with a single mahogany desk, warm lamplight from a brass lamp with an amber shade, terracotta walls lined with leather-bound military texts, 2 comfortable burgundy leather chairs. A small window with a view of the academy gardens at twilight. This was where I conducted detailed evaluation work. I sat down. Kaylor took the other chair. I placed Esther's papers on the desk between us. The brass lamp cast warm light across the numbered methods. Outside, the lavender sky was deepening to purple. I looked at Kaylor. He looked at me. His amber eyes' inner rings rotated slowly. His numerical tattoos began pulsing again in weak sequential patterns. "Method 5, I said. I began reading. Method 5 involved common cleaning supplies and a ventilation system. Method 6 required only a scheduled meeting and a subtle adjustment to furniture positioning. Method 7 utilized basic physics and a stairwell. By the time I finished reading Method 10, my fractal patterns had collapsed into tight, rigid lines across my skin, barely moving at all. Kaylor sat motionless beside me, his amber eye rings rotating in slow, sporadic jerks, his numerical tattoos flickering weakly like dying stars. "She has optimized for efficiency," Kaylor whispered. "Every method shows clear understanding of anatomy, environmental factors, resource availability, and investigative countermeasures. This is not theoretical knowledge. This is systematic problem-solving applied to lethality." I set down the papers and stared at the leather-bound military texts lining my terracotta walls, books I had studied for years, tactical theory from the greatest strategic minds across known space. Esther had apparently skipped all that and gone directly to practical application with the creativity of someone solving a puzzle. "What disturbs me most," I said slowly, my throat membranes vibrating with careful control, "is how neatly she numbered them. Look at the formatting. Each method has a clear title, step-by-step instructions, estimated time frame, and resource list. She treated this like a recipe collection." Kaylor's elongated fingers traced the edge of the paper without touching it, as if contact might contaminate him further. "I have calculated success probabilities for each method. They range from 78 to 94% effectiveness. Resource requirements are minimal across all scenarios. Detection avoidance is optimized." Her creativity index. His tattoo sputtered, flashed randomly, then froze again. "My measurement scale cannot process this level of inventive lethality." I forced myself to continue reading. Method 11 through 14 passed in a horrifying blur. Then I reached method 15 and stopped breathing entirely. It used office supplies. Common everyday objects found on literally every ship, station, and facility across the known galaxy. Things sitting in storage closets. Things people handled daily without a second thought. Esther had described exactly how to weaponize them with approximately 90 seconds of preparation time. I looked up at my own office supplies sitting on the corner of my desk. The brass letter opener, the heavy bookends, the metal clips holding examination papers together. My fractal patterns spasmed once across my entire body. "Those items are on every vessel in the fleet," I said quietly. Kaylor made a sound like strangled choking. His numerical tattoos tried to calculate the implications, failed completely, and went dark for several seconds before rebooting with dimmer light. Method 22 was worse. It required only gravity and precise timing, no weapons, no tools, no physical contact, just an understanding of momentum and an ability to wait for the correct moment. "She has weaponized physics itself," Kaylor said faintly, his voice barely audible. His tattoos attempted the mathematical modeling, produced increasingly frantic number sequences, then froze entirely again. I needed air. I stood up from my desk, and Kaylor rose with me. We walked out into the academy corridor together, Esther's papers left behind on my desk like contaminated artifacts. The West Wing corridor stretched before us with its plush burgundy carpet runner and warm honey-colored stone walls. Bronze wall sconces cast gentle amber light. Tall windows showed the manicured grounds outside, where the last remnants of sunset painted the sky in soft orange and purple gradients. We passed the academy administrator, an amphibian official carrying a folder of documents. He nodded politely at us. "Good evening, Instructor Veltris, Proctor Kaylor." We nodded back. He continued down the corridor, completely unaware that we had just been reading a comprehensive manual for creative assassination written by a human in a frock and jacket who thought she was being helpful. The absurdity of it struck me then. Everything around us was peaceful, normal, orderly. Meanwhile, back in my office sat papers describing 30 different ways to kill someone efficiently, written by a mid-tier student who had probably gone to get dinner afterward. We returned to the examination hall. The assessment period was ending. Candidates were completing their final papers, organizing their materials, standing to stretch. I watched from my evaluation platform as students filed out, handing their papers to the collection basket near the entrance. The tall reptilian student I had noticed earlier submitted his exam and left. The amphibian candidate placed hers carefully in the basket and departed. Esther was the last to finish. She stood, stretched her arms above her head, rolled her shoulders. She gathered her papers, walked calmly to the collection basket, placed her exam on top of the stack with a satisfied smile. Then she turned, saw me watching from my platform, and waved cheerfully. Her brown ponytail swung with the motion. Her innocent expression radiated contentment with a job well done. My throat membranes managed a weak vibration in response. She smiled wider and walked out of the hall, her footsteps light on the mahogany floor. Kaylor and I returned to my private office. The evening had deepened now. Through my small window, the academy gardens were barely visible in the twilight, just dark shapes against a deep purple sky. The brass lamp on my desk cast warm, intimate light across the remaining papers. We sat down again. I had read 22 methods. 8 remained. I made myself continue. Method 23, 24, 25. Each one demonstrated the same disturbing pattern: minimal resources, maximum efficiency, clear understanding of how to avoid investigation afterward. Method 28 used only psychological manipulation. No weapons, no physical contact, no direct involvement at all. The target would eliminate themselves, and Esther would be nowhere near the scene. This method does not even require her physical presence, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. My fractal patterns had gone completely still on my skin, frozen in place. Kaylor's amber eyes stared at the paper. His inner rings had given up rotating entirely. She has optimized the concept of murder to its most abstract form. Cause and effect, separated by time and space. Statistically perfect. Method 29. Then, finally, I reached the last page. Method 30. The final answer. I read it slowly, my 3 aqua eyes processing each word with mounting disbelief. It was the shortest entry on the entire document. 3 sentences. No elaborate setup. No complex preparation. Just a direct, simple, elegant approach that somehow managed to be more disturbing than all the elaborate methods that came before it precisely because of its brutal efficiency. I set the paper down carefully on my desk. My hands were trembling. I looked at Kaylor. He looked at me. His numerical tattoos displayed a single phrase in weakly glowing symbols. Threat assessment failed. 30 methods, I said quietly. We asked for 3. She provided 30. 1000% excess content, Kaylor confirmed, his voice hollow. Each method tactically sound. Each method demonstrating advanced understanding of multiple disciplines. Collectively, this represents... He paused, his eye rings attempting one final rotation before stopping. This represents the most comprehensive theoretical assassination framework I have ever analyzed. I pulled out the official evaluation form from my desk drawer. Standard academic assessment document. Boxes for tactical creativity, strategic reasoning, practical application, presentation quality. A final score calculation at the bottom. I stared at the empty form for a long moment. Protocol required numerical evaluation. My entire career had been built on proper procedure, systematic analysis, objective grading standards. I could not let personal discomfort interfere with professional assessment. The assignment had asked candidates to demonstrate tactical creativity by providing lethal methods for a theoretical scenario. Esther had provided 30 functional, well-reasoned, disturbingly practical methods. By strict academic standards, she had exceeded every requirement. I picked up my writing instrument. My fractal patterns pulsed once with resigned acceptance. I filled out the evaluation form with shaking hands, marking scores in each category. Kaylor watched silently, his tattoos flickering weakly. I calculated the final grade and wrote it clearly at the bottom of the form. Perfect score, highest in academy history. Not because I wanted to reward this, but because professionally, I could not fault the work. She had answered the question that was asked, thoroughly. The next morning, I returned to the grand examination hall. The rich burgundy walls and warm amber lighting seemed exactly the same, but somehow the space felt different now, as if it had been contaminated by knowledge I could not forget. Results were posted on the official board near the entrance. Candidates gathered to check their scores. Esther arrived wearing the same frock and jacket, her brown hair in the same practical ponytail. She approached the board, scanned the listings, and found her name. Her eyes widened. She squealed with genuine delight and turned toward my evaluation platform where I stood with Kaylor. "Instructor Veltris," she called out, practically bouncing as she climbed the platform steps. Thank you so much. I really tried my best on that examination. My 3 aqua eyes blinked in slow sequence. My throat membranes remained silent. My fractal patterns barely moved across my ice-blue skin. Beside me, Calor stood rigid, his numerical tattoos completely frozen, his amber eyes staring straight ahead. Esther tilted her head with innocent curiosity. I hope my answers were helpful. I know you asked for 3, but I was really interested in the problem, and I just kept thinking of more approaches. So I figured more examples would demonstrate better understanding of tactical flexibility. She smiled brightly. That is how academic assessment works, right? More thorough analysis equals better evaluation? I managed a single vibration from my throat membranes that could charitably be interpreted as agreement. Her smile widened. Then her expression shifted to enthusiastic curiosity. So, I wanted to ask, is there extra credit available? Because the next unit is about defensive fortifications, and I have been thinking about structural weak points in standard military architecture, and I came up with this list of my fractal patterns exploded outward across my entire body in chaotic geometric shock waves. My top eye closed completely. My throat membranes produced a single ascending whistle of pure existential horror. I felt my vision darkening. Beside me, Calor's body went completely rigid. His amber eyes, inner rings, attempted one final desperate rotation, then stopped. His numerical tattoos flashed a single word, no, before going completely dark. His knees buckled. We collapsed simultaneously, falling in opposite directions. I heard Esther's concerned voice from very far away. "Oh no, are you both all right? Should I get the medical responder? I will just wait here until someone arrives. Maybe I will work on my fortification list while I wait. I already have ideas for weak points involving load-bearing structures and..." The last thing I processed before consciousness faded completely was a single coherent thought. We asked humanity for 3 solutions. They gave us 30. Next time, never ask humans to optimize anything, ever.